Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in wa rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. So, following on from last week's uh, brief of like a local domestic development for Islamic finance, now this is a philosophical overview and historical overview beyond Britain, beyond UK. Yeah, I thought this, and it has some conceptual foundations of Islamic finance and how it is different from the conventional banking, conventional riba-based system. So I promise that the rationale for riba prohibition I will share. It's 20 plus pages written by Yusuf Jaha, a Sharia advisor in UAE. And I will be sharing with you some another writing of mine regarding the inclusion in Islamic finance and money matters of the charitable social expenditure, social institutions like whole charity sector. So let us move on from UK to go to the philosophical foundation. So let us understand what is Sharia. I mean, as I understand that most of you have a Muslim background and you will know that what is Islam, 5 pillars, confession of Shahada, and then surrendering the will towards the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Sunnah of Rasulullah. But this Sharia virtual jurisdiction, what I'm trying to introduce is the Islamic Sharia is not a fixed. Sharia does not mean a system of law, but it is like a lifestyle, or it is like a theory, and it is like a methodology. And that methodology includes moral conduct plus the legal boundaries. So Sharia is a set of principles and guidelines derived from primary and secondary sources of Islam. Primary is Quran and Hadith. Secondary is consensus and qiyas, mean analogy or deduction or analytical analysis of the rationale. So Sharia is not a demographic law. It is a global law and is rather global legal method which is implemented in various parts of the world in various shapes and ways. So sometimes it is the law of the land, sometimes it is the moral domain, moral ethos of a society is called Sharia. But one thing is common, that it is voluntarily adhered by most of the majority of the Muslims across the globe. Because at the moment, Muslims are not living in Muslim majority land. Increasingly, Muslims, major part of the Muslim population out of 1.3 billion, more than 50% live under the non-Muslim land governed by non-Muslim laws. So the law of the land is nothing to do with Islam or moral guidance. It is secular or democratic, yeah, secular and democratic. So more than 50% Muslims living under the non-Muslim land, they adhere to Sharia voluntarily. So they are voluntarily abiding by it, by their own conviction. Sharia transcends national jurisdiction and boundaries. So Sharia does not stop at one border on one physical place or one society. And Sharia is not just a criminal law as it is perceived. And what Sharia is given, if you ask anyone who is not familiar with Islam and Muslim, they will say Sharia is chopping hands and things like that. All the penal codes and the worst form of it is associated with Sharia. So my fourth point is Sharia is not only governs faith and worship, but also economic, social, political, and cultural aspect of life. Yeah. So Sharia is belief, faith, is worship, rituals, and it's also social interactions, economic guidance, and social, socio-political, and cultural aspect also. So Sharia is a very in a comprehensive way of life. Sharia literally means a waterway, a way of life, way of water going through. So Sharia can be understood an extra layer of jurisdiction in a multi-layered world of regulations and authorities. So like within UK, there is a law of land, there is an English court and parliament, and beside it is the Sharia. So most of the time they don't contradict each other, but sometimes they do contradict each other. So Muslims are able to practice Sharia as much as possible within the given law. So, for instance, in inheritance, we have complete freedom. In divorce and uh, marriage, we have complete freedom. Social and financial matters, we have complete freedom. So, this is just to give. But some other principles of Sharia which are governing the economic and financial life is coming next. Yeah, sure. So let us see how, after the painful history of colonization of the Muslim land during 19th century, 18th and 19th century, 19th and 20th century, I mean, all the last 250 years has been the years of colonization. But post-colonial time, during colonial time, there was no possibility of having financial rule and financial Islamic Sharia governing Islamic financial rule. So only post-colonial time, 1970s, 60s and 70s. 60s is the beginning of the Umrah and Hajj savings in Malaysia, Hajj Tabung. So they deployed the Hajj and Umrah saving, which used to be for longer time, 10, 15, 20 years, to deploy it in a useful economic finance. It's called Hajj Tabung. But in 70s, it became commercial. And 60s, so it was like a voluntary and devotional money invested in a strict Sharia manner. And in Egypt, it was a social Nasir social bank, social banking. But in 70s, it started as a commercial entity. So Dubai Islamic Bank, 1975, and Islamic Development Bank, Intergovernmental Bank, was created in 1975. Yeah. So this is historical development from 70s to 80s and 90s and 2000s. And it has been naturally growing based on the supply and demand, on demand driven. People required it, wished for it, and they welcomed it, and they supported it. And so beyond commercial banking, like retail banking, then it started in 80s project finance, syndications, some institution coming together. In during 90s, commercial banking and project finance, and beside project finance and syndication, equity, the stock market was no-go area before. It was seen as a gambling, but equity market came under Sharia scrutiny. So Dow Jones Islamic Index and all sorts of Islamic indices, FTSE Islamic Index, MSCI Islamic Index, all sorts of indexes started coming from 90s. And Ijara-based lease financing, lease-based financing came to 90s. In 2000, there was a bond, securitized financing, structure and alternative assets financing, things like that. All this red, which you can see, is the new things emerging in every new decade of last like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decades. Yeah? So it's like 50. So early 30 years and then last 20 years has been seen the explosion of Islamic finance across the globe, yeah, including UK. So apart from historical, now throughout this time, how this has evolved in a like clockwise. So simply replacing the debt-based financing through equity and other musharaka, mudaraba, and Wakala financing. And then, of course, what you can see is during 1970s, insurance, takaful also coming into to be germinated in the Muslim land. And then syndication mean many partners started to participate in big project, infrastructure project. Structured in trade finance, international global trade financing institutions came out. And then 90s equity market mean the stock market uh, became the regulations for Islamic compliant stock market came. And you can just search Dow Jones Islamic Index or FTSE Islamic Index, and you can download all their criteria. I can share it later on if you can't find it. Project financing is still nowadays in UK and across the globe. Muslims and non-Muslims all are tapping into the project financing. They just conceive a big project and then invite financing. Private equity is the latest development. Uh, Private equity firms and banks are there who look for the successful businesses, and then they plug in, and then they reap the benefit when it becomes public stock market. Sukuk is the like Islamic Sharia compliant bond, securitized assets. Like the UK government securitized some government buildings, like sold its rights to the certificate holders and gave them uh, rent as an income. So for their fixed investment, gave them a variable rate of return, and of course structure process. This is the history of the project products which developed during from 90s to 2000. And of course this index, Sharia compliant index, index MSCI, S&P Sharia compliant index, Dow Jones, and FTSE. These are just these terminology. If you just type it on Google, you will find the 10, 15 page and all the rules and regulations which are there. And I will go through some of them just for our understanding. So let's see what is all the fuss about. What is the difference between the conventional Lloyds Bank and Islamic section of Lloyds Bank or Islamic Bank Computer or Rayyan? So let's see. Conventional banking on the left, red and orange, and green and dark and light green is the modes of doing similar things, but on a different footing and different ways of doing it. So as it was put through the question that interest-based financing, why interest is prohibited, why it is uneconomical, what are the side effects of interest. So let us see that conventional banking, they increase they give to the consumer finance, they give to the small and medium businesses, yeah. Maximization of ultimate goal. So they pool the money of shareholders and pool the money of all the depositors and give them on a loan and just make money in as a go between based on interest. Systematic conflict between shareholder and credit finance customers. Yeah, so there is always a competing demand between the shareholders' value return on the investment in the bank and the consumers, depositors, and consumers. So there are three stakeholders: bank owners, bank depositors, customers, and then the businesses who use it. So this is the conventional banking which is at the moment. Speculation fuel crisis. So 1997, 1998, 1999. This and I don't know why I missed the 2008 crisis, big crisis. Those of you who could remember. From time to time, the river-based system goes through the like a shaky ground, which is called like a earthquake, like, yeah, and it shakes everything, shakes something, and then they rectify it. Regulation often reactive and lagging corporate misbehavior. So like when the fraud has been already committed, when the dodgy thing has been already done, Then the government comes up with the new rules for future. These are the list of Enron, WorldCom, Arthur Andersen, Tyco, and other collapse entities. Because of the inherent contradictions with the riba-based system, interest-based system, the conventional banking goes through this at a very regular basis. So throughout the 20th century, before First World War, after First World War, before Second World War, after Second World War, there were all sorts of crises historically. But because we have Islamic banking has started in 60s, which is post Second World War, so relatively in a stable era, but still doing the thing, fulfilling the financial needs of the Muslim community across the globe on a different footing. So instead of loan and debt-based financing, Islamic banks are asset-based, need-based approach to financing, that to fulfill the real needs, not speculative needs, as opposed to the conventional bank. And investment channels towards ethical activities rather than any activity, uh, even the prohibited by Sharia, gambling, speculation, and all sorts of uncertainties. And Islamic bank did equitable distribution of risk and reward. So in the conventional banking, all the risk is shifted towards the borrower and the depositor, and the banks, they take it minimum risk. They do suffer some losses and some take risk, but major risk is shifted to some other parties. But in Islamic finance, risk is evenly spread. Yeah? So this is the third issue. Prevention of speculation in Islamic financing. So ownership is a prerequisite of sale. So it cannot be fictitious sale or fictitious thing. Excessive risk are prohibited. So uncertainty is, gharar is prohibited. The case for narrow banking is just like bankers making narrow margins from the depositors' money through lending it to the businesses. So Sharia-based IFI is taqwa-based. So, all the do's and don'ts of Sharia, Islamic Sharia, is taken into the consideration, and it is thus automatically ethical and considerate and real, had a connection with real economy. Sharia-based system prioritize God over regulations. So the bottom line, an ethical grounding prevents a wide set of problems, like it preempts the crisis, it preempts the social unrest, it preempts the the Wall Street demonstration when it says we are 99% and only 1% people who are super rich, they are the controller of our destiny. So these are the broader differences between, and some specific differences are coming, that in Islamic finance there are 6-7 different modes of financing. In conventional banking there is only one mode of financing, debt. So let's move Islamic banking versus conventional banking. Some more differences between Islamic banks and conventional bank. Like previous slide, you have some uh, overall macro consideration. Here you can see the micro consideration, inshallah. Islamic banks operate and functions on the principles of Islamic law based in, and conventional banks operates and functions fully on man-made guidance. There is no ethical or spiritual consideration. So it's like they are free to do many things unless something goes wrong. Yeah? It's called laissez-faire policy, like minimalist regulations. Islamic banks focus on building a partnership relationship with investors and understand the customer's business is vital. But the rate of interest is already predetermined for the investor, be their user, the investors of the users of the fund, who are users of the fund. Yeah. So there is no mutual consideration. It's just fixed by the government or the committee or by the markets. Yeah. So these are like 5 different uh, scenarios and results of the Islamic finance, there are no on the left one, there are no provisions to charge additional money interest from the defaulters in Islamic scenario. But fundamental function of conventional bank is to lend money and getting back with the interest and compound interest if there is a default or some issue. Yeah? Like the debt consulting, debt debt resolving and debt related issues, mental, social, are all very well known. Debt is like a big social issue. The last difference is deposits are based on principles of al-Wadiya. Therefore, Islamic Bank can only guarantee deposits for deposit account. Depositors are guaranteed repayment of their funds. However, if the account is based on the Mudaraba concept, client have to share the losses in Muslim land, not here in UK. But in a conventional bank, of course, deposit is guaranteed. So these are like some some differences which you can make sense, hopefully. If you don't make sense, please do raise your hand and ask any questions. Yeah? Even in the middle. I'm just going through the overview of the fundamental differences and similarities. This is the picture of Islamic Development Bank in Jeddah. And you can see free from usury, some of the characteristics, key, free from gharar, ambiguity, free from darar, detrimental, the harm of society, freedom of contract, mean they can flexibly form the contract, and then free from price control and manipulation. All this prohibited according to Sharia. And free from gambling, of course, yeah. And entitlement to transaction at fair price. Yeah? This is like if there is a dispute. A system grounded on moral and ethical ground. So we have in the conventional and social world, we have partners called ethical finance, and they consider similar values, which are ours are based on religion, the others are based on human values. Promote equity rather than debt. In the conventional finance, it's a debt. Yeah? Entitlement of equal, adequate, accurate information in Islamic environment. So these are really key characteristics of Islamic finance. I hope that they make sense to you, because many people cannot see any difference between Islamic finance and the conventional banking, because they are governed by the same law, they have similar names, they have similar functions, but underlying philosophy, underlying methodology, and are different. And end result might be the same, because we are all human beings, Muslims and non-Muslim, and we really have the end game is same, but the way to do the things are different, like fulfilling the human needs at various life stages. This is the way I hope it completes the picture of the key characteristics of Islamic finances. Yeah. These are some general rules, yeah? Universal principles. Sharia legal maxim is that all useful economic activity is permissible unless there is a clear prohibition against it. So it's like everything is allowed except few things, yeah? And it is coming to deployment of funds and not leaving it idle. So expenditure and using the financial resources is encouraged rather than accumulating and just being miserly collecting the money. Deployment of funds is next is the sharing of risk and reward is fairly and equally distributed among investors and various stakeholders. And fairness, justice, transparency, is honesty. These are the main Islamic values which are translated to Sharia into the financial dealing. The last one is socially responsible and eco-friendly, inshallah. Yeah? I hope these are making sense to you as a general things. If we can see the list of the various activities which goes on in the society, and individual needs at different stages of life, family needs, and then business needs, yeah, partnership needs, and then public needs like infrastructure projects and things like that. So the capital provision and exchange of goods and services. So like for large projects, they need to accumulate large, like railways and big, the HS2 high speed network number 2, which is from London to Birmingham, Birmingham to Manchester. So many 100 billions are committed, and it needs accumulation of the savings in money. So in capital provision, there is a whole set of non-remunerative loans and gift and charitable giving, and that was raised last week. But remunerating partnership based on partnership and permanent or temporarily, which is like partnerships have various from the musharaka, muzaraba, wakala, and all the other things. Also, istisna, salam, all sorts of partnership is there, capital and labor partnership. And in businesses, either you hire the things like car hiring nowadays, or you do consumer durable goods like uh, you know household items which are taken on installment called murabha, cost plus sale, musawama, simple bargain, normal sales, salam, future trade sales, and istisna, which is manufacturing sales like made to measure, made to order. So these are like different ways of fulfilling the financial needs of the Muslim community, whether it is individual, whether it is family, whether it is a group, or whether it is a whole society in infrastructure projects. Yeah, financial activities. These are the different financial type of activities, and Islamic principles applied to this. So here we come to like general rules of do's and don'ts, because there are few do's and few don'ts, yeah, and these are very finite. Rest is we are free to do whatever uh, does not touch the red line, does not touch the boundaries. So interest is prohibited, so it has to be partnership, mean not shifting the risk but sharing the risk. Ambiguity should not be there, any duping, gharar, which is called. Unfairness should not be there, which is zarar, mean like selling the investment which is known to be not very uh, not very suitable for customers, but still they keep selling. And trade in sinful activities, because we have some red lines, sin and non-sin. So trade is not allowed into sinful activities, muharramat. Speculation and gambling is prohibited. So maisir, insurance and lottery is not allowed. No underlying physical assets, la shaya. Speculative like derivatives and swap and things like that. These are some terminologies of really just trading on the risk. There is no goods and services exchange. On the other hand, these are like these are prohibition of interest, and then these are the things which we are not allowed to do in certain other areas. Yeah? No tobacco, alcohol, pork, financial services, insurance companies. So in terms of investments into the companies, no cinema, pornography, armament or media industries, no interest revenue shall be credited but given to the charity. So if there are any interest income, it is given to charity. Cash receivables and borrowing less than 30% of total. So the yellow column here is the screening criteria for the mass thousands of companies which are listed on the stock market. Yeah? And I think you will be, if I'm here just listing those things, but if you want to read fully understand what are the rules, regulations for investing on the other companies, like BT and other telephone companies or internet companies, they are just provider of facilities. We can buy their shares, get the income or benefit from the rise in the prices. Okay, how these things are ensured in the Islamic environment, like in the Muslim or Sharia compliant insurance company, retail bank, wholesale bank, funds, and investment activities, how it is. So people like me and others who have spent their lifetime learning and understanding, and they have reputational on the consumer base, shareholders, stakeholders, and consumer. They all trust us to represent the Sharia in the financial aid. So advice on product development, which I do every day. Just today I received some inquiries about new e-saving products. So on a daily basis or weekly basis, I keep getting new business ideas and proposals, and I have to pass my judgment whether it is conducive to Sharia or contrary to Sharia. Screening legal and marketing documents. So that's what I do. Every now and then I'm faced with the bulk of documents to see if there is no unfair things. Every week I have to scrutinize so many things daily. Even the dispute among the partners, they send to me that look at the agreement which we had among the partners and how to resolve our differences and how whether we can go to the court or not. Sharia scholars do monitoring the stocks, management practice, and fees. So I am a Sharia advisor along with others on Aberdeen Islamic Equity Fund, which is like 100 and maybe $50 million. All the children's saving, pension savings, and other things are there, and we monitor them. There is a specialized company which monitors about their screening criteria, which you saw in the yellow thing here, and we see monthly report, and then every quarterly we go through the full list of the shareholdings, the buying, selling, disposition, and everything, yeah, and how do this deal. So this is the Sharia scholars for physical and moral purification portfolio. So if there are like impure income, which is monitored monthly, like 1 or 2% residual incomes, which are interest based or not allowed, we separate them and give them to charity. It's under supervision of Sharia scholars. So this is the role of Sharia scholars and board. Regular reports and annual audit of the funds. Each and every institution, apart from our regular meetings and monitoring, then there is an annual audit report through the internal and external audits. So inshallah, you see the Sharia scholars have their plates full to do and arbitrate and give them the Sharia point of view in each and every aspect of product, from development to others. You will see the whole process, inshallah. So in investment products, which are like last week, Tuesday, when I showed you the deposit accounts and the Wahid funds and other, investment income based investments, they some are high risk, some are medium risk, some are no risk, fixed income. Yeah. So these are the two scenarios, and in Islamic Sharia there is a separate rule for each domain. So zero to full risk sharing. Yeah. Current and deposit accounts are nearly zero risk. Yeah. ISA and capital protected accounts are nearly zero risk. Child trust fund and Sharia baby bond, which I mentioned about the newborn babies and the children's educational savings, they are very minor risk. Scottish Widows Global Equity Fund, this has been now renamed to Aberdeen Global Equity Fund. Takaful and Islamic insurance products, these are really minimum and no risk, or sometimes little bit medium risk. Fixed income to variable income products. So real estate and property funds, like last time I mentioned the yielders, and there is a Igloo property which works on a Sharia based crowdfunding to buy property and share the income. Sukuk, Musharaka in Ijara Sukuk. Sukuk is like big projects where there are hundreds of investors through Sukuk. Sukuk means the investment certificate. Sakka ya Sukuk. Sak means a certificate of shareholding. Pension funds, I also mentioned, and I think if you, and there was a question also, that there are a couple of funds which are Sharia compliant, and I just looked at Sharia compliant pension fund, and on Google I found there is from the money issue, there was a full details about it, and I think I should be able to share with you in future slides. Hedge funds in UK, I don't know any hedge fund, but in Middle East there are hedge funds. Yeah? Hedge funds mean where they have mitigated the risk of funds going bust or going low. Yeah. So these are the various. These are all conceptual level I am talking, and the differences which exist in the market. Yeah. This home purchase, how it works, I'm gonna deal with this separately, like for private living, for investment purposes, for commercial purposes. All three I will cover in the next week in a different thing. So that's why I'm just skipping this home financing. Yeah? Because it's a big chunk of the business which Muslims and Muslim institutions are doing here. So what is the history of Islamic finance globally and locally? It starts as a young growing product, growing institution, and it keeps taking interest, strength over the time. So the history of Islamic finance in UK is like 40 years, but elsewhere it is like 50 to 60 years, yeah, from 60s, so 70 years, yeah. Even when I was in Turkey, I learned that 1913, when the Khilafah was there, there was a Tijara bank, which was abandoned at the end of the Khilafah in 1924, and it was converted to the interest-bearing bank. So interest has been imposed really on Muslim land through colonization and secularization. Okay, so these two graphs, which shows that from 2005 to 2010, in 5 years, some of the growth which has come up on the right hand, you will see assets for portion of total, they are growing. I mean, till 2009 or 10, there was a phenomenal growth in Islamic finance here in UK and everywhere else in the world. There were 74 countries in the world, including, the highest is the Malaysia and the Gulf, and then Pakistan and some Far Eastern, and then rest of the Muslim world. So if I had to summarize from 1963, Tabung Haji and Mid-Qamar Saving Association and Islamic Development Bank in 74 and Islamic Dubai Bank in 75, you can see that it has slowly, very, very naturally gone. Industry is fragmented, but slowly internationalizing. International players have joined in, HSBC, Lloyds, and Standard & Chartered, and Bank of America. All sorts of players have joined because there was a gain to be done. Market size estimated from 750 billion in the beginning till now, like double or triple of that. Yeah, this was the source is 2006, so like it's 15-year-old report. Yeah, currently after 2008 financial crisis, the industry has stabilized. Yeah? So inshallah you'll see that this is the current statistics globally, top Islamic financial institutions. Yeah? So these are some references, you can check it on the globe. And I think so number of some panels are obscuring my view. So the total Sharia assets is 1.2 billion. That is in a report in 2015. So after like historical report, now I have got some updates. Yeah, there is a country report at the bottom, top 10 commercial banks, and then there is a global report that how it has grown from decade to decade. from billions to trillions. Yeah. Total Sharia assets of standalone banks is 946 billion. Total Sharia profit of standalone banks is 12 billion. Average return on asset for standalone is 1.1. Yeah. So, and these are the you can get update figures from the banker. This is the UK based, very authoritative magazine. Inshallah, you will be able to inshallah see. Yeah. MashaAllah. And I hope this gives you like this UK is not in a jungle or an island. UK is following the global trend and led by Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan and Gulf, and then rest of the non-Muslim world and Far East world and North America, other places are following. And this is like a global report, inshallah. So this is a highlight of top Islamic banks in 2015. This is done from Banker and Marriage Strategies. Oh, I thought the Economist magazine, they publish similar graphs that interest is growing on profit-based Islamic finance. So number of countries where this is major number of registered institutions 360, number of institution reporting assets 360, and then number of conventional institutions Sharia window 111. So like there are dedicated Islamic institutions and there are conventional institutions having windows operating with this. So like I think there are these are statistics which was produced by the Banker magazine. Number of insurance companies 90, number of regional owned subsidiaries 33. So this gives overall there is a list of 500 institutions in the Banker magazine published, which 200 of them are like standalone institutions. They are not all banks, they are funds and there are insurance companies and there are retail and wholesale banks. So I hope that this 5-year-old statistics gives you enough confidence about what is happening in UK is a reflection of what is happening across the globe. And these are not the standalone and individual institutions. Behind them is a whole set of institutions supporting the IOFI, Benchmark of Islamic Countries Standards. So 56 accounting and auditing governance and Sharia standards have been published. Now it is 68 now in hand. So IOFI means the Association Accounting and Audit Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions in Bahrain. So they produce accounting standard, they produce Sharia standards. So there is a self-regulation. I mean, once the standards are published there, if you are paying full attention, I can show you some of these standards. This is my copy of Sharia standards in Arabic, and they are all available in English also, and they are now freely available. The whole Sharia standard for each field of economic activity is available. It enhances clarity, transparency, and harmonization across the globe. And it becomes like a law of it has become the law of the land in Malaysia and in Pakistan, in Bahrain, in UAE, and probably in Saudi Arabia and other places. Yeah. So then there is a second set of institutions called IIFM, Bahrain, International Institute of Financial Things. So they do development of global Islamic capital and money markets, promoting active and regulated trading and capital flows, all sorts of like big businesses. And then there are CGIBFI. This is an institution to teach promotion of industry in theory and practice, to give training and other things. IFSB, uh, Islamic Finance Services Board, yeah, which is a standard setting body for regulatory and supervisory agencies. LMC, Bahrain, I don't remember the full form of it because it's not very well known. And IIRA. If you type this in Google, you can get the full their website and everything. Yeah, and what they do is mentioned here: creation of active and interbank markets, yeah? And reference point for Islamic financial institution ratings. International Institute of Rating, yeah, the last one is sorry. Treasury products, enabling IFI management of liquidity mismatch. Yeah. Liquidity management company. Yeah. And Malaysia also they have done it. So what it gives you really like the international scenario, historical scenario, based on very good development and based on Islamic Sharia, Islamic philosophy, and Islamic rules, which is determined by a standard setting body applied by the internal Sharia officers and uh, external Sharia advisors like myself. So there are like maybe 50 to 100 Sharia advisors in UK, but globally there are like 600 Sharia advisors only, and the list is growing. Young people are joining, getting the Sharia training and getting the finance and economics training to become Sharia officer, to become Sharia standard auditor, to become Sharia advisor, and like supervisor or expert, whatever you can say. So hopefully, following on from last week's UK scenario, I gave you the global scenario and philosophical and uh, some rationale and some do's and don'ts and the red boundaries and the mechanism of Sharia scholars. How do we implement all these things into the Islamic financial institutions here in UK and abroad?